Hello, beloveds. You are listening to Through the Dark Woods podcast, and I'm your host, Josia Tamir Crossley, and this is episode number 3 of our 8-part series, Rooted in Thriving, Grief Tending for Collective Liberation. The world is on fire right now. Most people are walking around carrying generations of unmetabolized pain and wondering why everything feels so heavy. If you're someone who holds space for others in any capacity, and you know that there's a deeper medicine needed right now, you are on the right track and in the right place. If you felt the call to grief tending and grief ritual work, but not known where to start, and if you would love to build a thriving grief tending practice that sustains you deeply, serves your community, and supports collective liberation, you are in the right place. I believe that community grief tending and ritual work is not just a critical way that we heal ourselves personally, although it's also that, but that this work is at the heart of our collective liberation. So in this series, I'll be interviewing graduates of our grief tending and ritual facilitation training programs at Dark Woods of Grief. You'll get to hear about their initiations into grief, and then that call to serving others that came to them, and then also what they're up to now as graduates from our programs. And then on the week of March 2nd, we'll be releasing 3 very special episodes, real talk straight from yours truly as a longtime grief tender, facilitator, and teacher of this work. We're going to be diving deep into what it takes to step into this work as your soul calling. Because when you're clearly called, then it just becomes a matter of how, right? If you'd like to sign up for our email list and receive every episode of this series in your inbox, you can go to darkwoodsofgrief.com/rooted-in-thriving. Link is in the show notes as well. So in the Irish tradition, a wake or faire is a gathering after death to honor life. And it typically is very inclusive of both tears and laughter, stories and songs, and wild humor, or craic in Irish, being integral parts of it. So it's a grief ritual, but it's not so much somber mourning. Instead, it's a celebration that feeds life itself. Spaces where we honor grief have always been a part of traditional cultures, and we need these spaces now more than ever as so many really horrifying truths are coming into the light for us to reckon with. And yet, as our known world seemingly falls apart at the seams, it's also more vital than ever to remember that gratitude, joy, and celebration are what feeds life alongside our tears and our sacred rage. Thus, on Tuesday, March 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we gather for a community grief and praise ritual to wake what is dying in our world and to feed life with our full-hearted presence and celebration. This ritual is open to everyone. It's by donation to our scholarship fund, and it will be modeled after the grief and praise sessions that we regularly hold inside of our Dark Woods grief support community. We will offer a collective, non-denominational prayer and meditation. There'll be writing and somatic practices, followed by a somatic movement practice, also known as dancing. And there'll be opportunities to share, express, and be witnessed. And everyone will be invited to share and participate to the degree that's right for them. So all the practices are invitational. As I said, this is a by donation event. All proceeds go to our scholarship fund, which supports us to be able to offer solidarity pricing for our programs and trainings, particularly for our Roots of Ritual Grief Tending Foundations training. We love to support folks who are living and working in underserved communities, primarily Black, Indigenous, people of color, single parents, disabled, and caregivers living on a limited income, to be able to, engage in our trainings and programs. And we can't do that without your support in this way. This is also intended as kind of a introduction for folks who might be interested in joining one of our programs and trainings, particularly our Roots of Ritual training. So you can get to really see and feel what it's like to be in one of these spaces in action, because it's a really powerful space to be in. And yeah, I'd love for you to have the opportunity to experience that. So link is in the show notes. Come and check us out. darkwoodsofgrief.com/collective-wake, WAKE. And I would love, love, love to see you there. Okay. And lastly, if you're loving this podcast and would love to show some appreciation, you can throw up a 5-star rating in whatever app you're listening in, which helps to boost us in that pesky algorithm. And even better, share it with your people, the ones around you who might also be called to this sacred work of grief tending and needing some inspiration. This is heavy work to carry alone, and we just aren't meant to. So call in your community and share in the support. Okay, hello and welcome. And I am super excited to be here today with Susan Adamson. And yeah, Susan just completed our 2025 grief tending and ritual facilitation training. And she is also an incredible practitioner of craniosacral therapy and pre and perinatal psychotherapy, which we have in common and we'll probably jam about a little bit today in our conversation. We both love to nerd out on the pre and perinatal work and the craniosacral work. And yeah, and you've been in our community for a few years, actually. So yeah, super excited to just have you share your story today with our listeners.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Well,
Welcome.
good to be here. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
But yeah, so maybe we could start with, yeah, like you first, because you first came into our Dark Woods community, not thinking that you would ever do the grief tending and ritual facilitation training. You were more just like looking for support, right?
Right.
People on their
Yeah,
journey of
totally.
grief. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, actually I had just gone through divorce with my husband of 33 years, and and we had been together for 40 years. Actually, we dated for a long time before we got married. We met really young. We were babies. um but so he was my life partner, and it was really devastating to me when I had to divorce him. He was an alcoholic, and he just wasn't willing to. He went into treatment a few times, but he wasn't willing to kind of continue with the treatment programs, and it just wasn't working for me. Um, and I was not. I just was finding I was struggling a lot with when I, find something of his or find an old letter that he had written me, and I'd be like, what happened? So I knew I needed something to get me through that. And a friend of mine recommended, she knew you, I just think through Instagram, like, and had seen you posting, and she was like, check her out. And so I did. And it just was such a great group because initially I felt like, well, yeah, I guess I'm grieving the loss of a marriage, which is big. Um, but it felt different than like there's no other grief groups that you could go to for, I mean, a divorce group maybe, but it's very different. So,
Yeah.
and I loved the somatic piece of it. And so, yeah, so I actually came in with your online program.
Right. Yeah. The grief and praise sessions.
Yeah, and the grief and praise sessions. And um, it was perfect. It was really great. And then my ex-husband died, so just a few months into the grief and praise sessions, he unexpectedly passed away. And I was so grateful that I was already in a group, and I'd already, like I knew the program, and it was a really, really beautiful place for
Mhm.
me to be supported.
Yeah, it was like pretty wild timing because you had just come in, I think, like a few months
Hmm.
happened. And like, yeah, just to track back to what you're saying about there's not a lot of groups that recognize the grief, and like typically grief support groups are like for major loss, like the death of someone close to you. But what we recognize at Dark Woods of Grief is that there's so many different kinds of grief, right? And of course, the ending of a relationship, there's huge grief. Even if you walk away intentionally, it's like, of course, there's still grief and in that loss. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that you found
I don't know
us
if
and
it's mine or yours.
oh, your internet's cutting out a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, my connection's
Fine.
unstable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay. We could just keep going and
Okay.
it's fine. Um,
It's technology.
yeah, technology, I know. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, just I'm so glad that you found us at that time because it was really wild timing that he then passed. And then of course there's like a whole nother level.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, it was kind of amazing, really, I think, because it was so shocking, his death. And I think I wouldn't have found anything had I not been already in the group, just because I think, I don't know, I just wouldn't have had the energy to even look or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So then it just continued to be a
Yeah.
really amazing support. And again, I think, just reflecting on this earlier today, and it was like, I've tried so many different grief groups since he passed, and like a widows group, and I did try a divorce group, and I tried all these different groups, and yeah, they just, none of them, I think because none of them do really the somatic piece, and don't really cultivate the level of safety that you cultivate with using the somatic tools, using the principles that you use. It just it makes such a difference. And so for somebody who, like I lost this love of my life, but it was also a slow process over years, and he had the addiction and I had anger, and like I had all these other emotions that don't fit nicely into like a widow
Complex
support
grief,
group.
basically, right? Yeah, which is
Yeah,
when then I mean with complex grief, it's so important to have the trauma informed aspect.
totally.
Yeah.
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 Right, because it was traumatic. And yeah, so trauma and grief versus, really intense grief. But so yeah. And
Mhm.
then what I also wanted, I knew I wanted an in-person retreat. So, and I knew that you offered those as well. And so it was it's funny to say, like I was excited to go to a
Yeah.
grief retreat, but I really wanted to do an in-person retreat. So when you opened that up, that I went to that, and that was within like 6 months of my husband passing. And so yeah, and again, even then, even when I did that, I wasn't like convinced that I was going to do the training.
I know. I remember like sitting in the hot tub with you and we were just talking. We were talking about pre and perinatal work and about cranial work and yeah, about the work that you're doing with the women, like the maternity group and all of
Yeah.
that. I just was like, oh, man, Susan, like I just love you, right? And I just love like the work that you do and like, and I just was like, oh, like I feel like but I don't even think I said it then, but I was like, oh, I feel like Susan needs to be in the training. And then later I reached out to you and was like, I think you should do this. And we
Yeah.
still weren't sure, but then kind of things kept happening that were showing.
Yeah, right. I think we get tapped, and so there was definitely, in this prenatal group, one of the women had a pregnancy loss, and nobody within that community that was helping me teach this prenatal class had experienced that before. And so I was like, oh, so I reached out to you because I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to work with these other women, and we need to work through the grief of the loss of this beautiful woman that, was in our group for, I don't know, it was a couple months. And that was so helpful. And they really, really, really appreciated that. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, and then a really good friend of mine got, diagnosed with cancer. And so I just felt like these things were happening to sort of give me more. I mean, I guess what I wanted was more tools for how to work with others that are going through grief. And I was really curious about the ritual aspect because there's so much beautiful ritual in your work and especially in the retreats. And so the pre and perinatal work is very somatic and lovely, but we don't really bring in ritual with it. And
Mm.
so yeah, so that's what kind of drew me in big time. It's like, oh, I want to feel comfortable with ritual because I think it's really so value added. It's like so beautiful, and
Well, I think there's just certain energies that you can move with ritual that you can't move
Yeah.
with more like psychotherapeutic type approach. Yeah, it's really there's something different about it, right? And I just want to slow down a little bit to what you were sharing about the I don't what do you call it, maternity group or pre and perinatal group that you were working with? With
Yeah, I was doing a course called Pregnancy Dialogues. So, and that so they were in like the second trimester of pregnancy, and we were just kind of working through each aspect of their pregnancy and even birth. So each class focused on a different area. And then, so it was just, it was like a sharing and then also connecting with the baby so that we had quiet time and kind of quiet meditative time for them to really connect with their babies and get a sense of what their babies wanted or what, messaging or just anything, just to be open to that communication link. Yeah. So,
so beautiful
mm,
and so oh my gosh, so important. And then yeah, you had like one of the women had this loss of her baby in the group, and then you were like, how do I like hold her and hold the group?
right.
These women who are also about to give birth.
Right. Yeah. And there was, I think, just so much heightened fear, with because she was the first one to deliver her baby and it was a stillbirth. And yeah, so just sort of working through with the rest of with her, but with all individually and then with the rest of the group, like how how does again, I think stay present and grounded and connected to their own baby. And that
Yeah.
my focus always working with my clients and mainly moms is like how do you connect with that inner wisdom within you and so yeah, so that's we just I kind of wanted to reinstill that like we've been working on this beautiful connection and yeah, so
Yeah, exactly. Because I think like when women are pregnant often, and I mean this isn't a bad thing, but I think often I say we because I've been pregnant, that we'll like avoid exposure to anything traumatic around pregnancy and birth for good reason, because we don't want to like we want to keep our minds clear and our body clear. And so you had this actually really challenging situation where you had all these pregnant women that you've been working with, and then this like scary, super tragic, devastating thing happen to one of the women that was connected to the group. And I just want to like slow that down and articulate it more, because it's like wow, that's a really tough situation to be in. And I think, we talked and you end up like holding it super beautifully after we spoke about, I think I'm trying to remember, maybe you can remember some of the things too, but I think we spoke about like consent being a piece, right? Of like making sure that like, because you were like, do I have them all come together again
yeah, yeah,
or
right,
not? And I was like, well, just get consent, like ask them if they're okay with it, if that's what they want, and ask her if she's okay with it. And then if everyone's consenting, because that's such an important piece to grief work, is like
it's
we
huge,
have to be consenting to be
right.
grief. We don't want to like put it on someone who's not consenting to be able to be with it. We need to have choice.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, and I spoke definitely with the mom first who lost the baby to just see, is this okay that we
Yeah.
meet and do you want to be there? Do you not want to be there? She chose not to be there. Um, and one other person chose not to come on the call either. So, and I spoke with her individually later as well, and I was like that's fine. Like that's perfect. That's what you needed. She just wasn't in a place where she wanted to process that in that moment.
Yeah.
And so we kind of talked individually after later. So yeah, it was really beautiful. And the people that showed up really thanked me. They really got a lot of benefit out of, and I set it up kind of like the grief and praise sessions that you do. It was shorter, but read some poetry and, just allowed them to speak about what they were feeling. And um, so and used a lot of the somatic practices and really called in safety and it was really beautiful actually and they really appreciated it so yeah so I
And I
thank you
love
for that.
yeah, no, you're so welcome. I'm so grateful that yeah, that I could support you with that. And I love what you said about yeah, guiding them back to like you've been cultivating this body wisdom and the relationship with the baby and the communication, and that you just got to lean really into that to in that moment of like, well, let's come back to that that
Yeah.
knowing, right, that you're having your own experience kind of is what you're saying. Yeah.
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 Right.
Uh,
Yeah. So yeah, I just think there's just been so many levels of learning about grief and different people's um not necessarily grief stories because that's not really the focus of how you work with people and how, it's really more, the just the felt sense, the emotions, and it's so like universal, that we have all these different emotions that show up at different times and it's so complex. And so yeah, I really honor the work and love it and feel really grateful that you kind of nudged me to take the journey because I think it's been super helpful in just so many different aspects of my own life and um, yeah, working with people who are in different stages of grief or trauma, really both. And yeah, I think it's just brought in a different level to the pre and perinatal work because that's very kind of trauma informed, um, as well. But yeah, I don't know. I actually did it's really sweet. I did a winter solstice group and just invited just different friends, like from all different groups of my friendship life,
yeah,
which I was,
nice. Yeah.
which I was like, I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out because I'm like, these people know each other, these people don't know anybody,
Right, right, right. Yeah.
but it was really sweet, and I was able to do the rock ritual, the rock in the water, and releasing. It was all about releasing, and they loved it. They loved it, and it was everybody added something different and unique to it. It wasn't cookie cutter. Like that's the beauty, I think, of
Mhm.
ritual when you really honor it and you bring in safety and you kind of set it up so that everybody's listening and there's confidentiality and that people felt really comfortable to, really bring what they wanted to bring to it. And it was great because it felt really vulnerable for me because I'm like, these are like my friends. I haven't done
Yeah.
this sort of work with them before, but they loved it and they're all like, I hope you do that again. So
So nice. Oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, in a way, it's like working with your friends is like less vulnerable because you're like, well, I know that you love me. But in a way, it's like so much more vulnerable because it's like exposing a different side of yourself to them.
Right, right. Yeah, that I hadn't really shared before. Yeah, so with some of them, some had seen
Right.
it, but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. And do you see yourself, yeah, like weaving the grief work into anything in the near future that you're doing? Like
Yeah.
thoughts about that? Mhm.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna do that. There was a retreat in Portugal, and
Yeah.
she has to push it back. So that will hopefully happen maybe later in the year. And she's really interested in bringing in, the truth mandala or that sort
Right.
of
She had invited
ritual.
you to come and facilitate the Truth Mandala, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that's beautiful. And that's a widow's retreat, right?
that's a widows, specifically widows. So yeah, so that I think will still happen, but just not as soon. And I'm really hoping that I'm in some healing groups here, and I'm kind of hoping to do like 1 day retreats here in the Seattle area, hopefully, using some of the ritual. And I think that'd be a really good stepping stone to just start with that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, doing something just like a day long thing is a really great way to start for sure. Or doing like a series of, I think we talked about this, didn't we? Doing like a series of maybe like six or something like that, like a couple hours, sort of like grief and pray sessions, and then maybe doing a day long thing in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice too, because it would kind of you'd find your people first, like people that really like that format. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and there's something nice about kind of having some surface area with people in like not the cathartic ritual space, but more the like, the grief and praise sessions are cathartic, definitely, but not
Yeah.
in the, I mean, not in the same way as the in-person ritual, right? It's like a very big
Right.
energy to hold. So there's something nice about getting people kind of get to put their toes and then their feet and then their knees into the water,
Right.
before diving all the way in.
Right. Really building that community and the connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you held an incredible because so you've done the what we're now calling like the advanced training, the level 1 and 2 training with this past year. Um, you were the last part of the last cohort where it was all together as one training.
Yeah. I'm really glad I got that.
I know, I'm so glad you did too. Yeah, and we'll still be doing the advanced training, but it'll just be as a separate from the level 1. But what did I want to say about that? Oh yeah, so you at the last retreat that we did, you held this really beautiful truth mandala. I'd love to talk about that a little bit because the way
Yeah.
it was super unique and it was really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really drawn to, we had to choose what we wanted to present. And I was really drawn to the Truth Mandela just because it was so powerful for me on the retreat that I went on. And but yeah, then I was like really nervous after I said yes to it because I'm like, that's holding a lot of space for, everybody. It's a big process for everyone.
Yeah, totally.
So but it felt really great because it was such a safe container and you were there and like we had support. So it was a beautiful way to kind of practice. And then we had talked earlier about, like you said, at that very first retreat where I was just attending it, about the pre and perinatal work and, how we could potentially integrate the two. And I'm seeing this more and more with the pre and perinatal world, like different calls I'm on, like people are really talking about birth and death, and they're really bringing more of the grief part in, because it's necessary. It's so needed. So anyways, so yeah, there are 8 principles that my mentor Ray Castellino used with all his trainings and his process workshops, and so it's a really big part of the training, and you already integrate, many of them into the just kind of naturally into your work, but so I brought that in. And I initially was only going to bring it, there's 8 of them. So I was only going to do like 4. I was like, oh, that's too much to do 8. And then I don't know, just in the moment, I was like, no, I just need to go through all of them and speak
Well,
on
they're there for
each
a
one.
reason, right? He brought those in, the principal, all 8 of them in for a reason through, his life work and
Right.
experience.
That's the thing. They kind of feed off of each other. So then as I'm kind of going through it in my head, I'm like, well, then I have to talk about this and I have to. So
Yeah, totally, totally. And just to be transparent on you said that I bring them in naturally, which is not totally true because I have like some sort of vicarious training in the prenatal because my therapist, and I've actually worked with a couple different therapists, but my current therapist who I've been working with for like 3 years now, she was like one of Ray's like studied with him a lot as well. I'm surprised you guys don't know each other. Actually, I keep being like, "Are you sure you don't know Susan? Are you sure you don't know Eileen?"
yeah,
But anyways, so just to say that, yeah, I think there's some like osmosis happening there of, but yeah, I just want to be transparent about that I'm not just
right.
natural.
Right. Yeah. And that you've been exposed to it. Yeah.
For sure.
So, but I mean, you weave it in, I guess is more what I was trying to say too. You kind of weave it in, without naming them all like on a poster
Yeah,
board or something.
true. Yeah, yeah, true.
So, yeah. So anyways, yeah. And it worked really well. And it was really powerful for me to offer that, and then to get the feedback of like, oh, people felt really safe, like another level of safety with that, with adding in, and a lot of it we did kind of in between turns where I would just restate sort of some grounding and centering and eye contact, and slowing things down. So, which was all sort of part of the principles. But
Yeah.
um, and that worked because that was my big fear, is like I didn't want to change the ritual, because the ritual's beautiful and it's very somatic, and it's a process, and that you don't want to really interrupt the process. And so I think that was the tricky part for me. That was the edge for me. It's like I don't want to interrupt somebody's process, um, but I think it worked really well to just
I think it
keep
worked
the
so
group
well.
safe. Yeah.
Totally. No, it was amazing. And yeah, it was such a journey to like work with you on that because I also wasn't sure going in, I was like, how is this going to be? Because there is something about um the truth mandala where there's like a movement of energy that then like it moves energy for the group and then somebody else feels the impulse and there's kind of that following of impulse. So we weren't sure like what it would be like to try to slow that down or bring in the pause and then we didn't actually use it. You didn't actually use it that much, but it was end up feeling like it was really, really critical for
Yeah.
certain points and really valuable to like kind of work with it together. And then yeah, the like you said, the in-between turns, because for those who haven't experienced the truth mandala and are listening, it's a process where one person enters the circle at a time and they're going through their process. And oh, I just completely lost my train of thought. This is funny. The last podcast I just recorded, I had a hot flash in the middle of the podcast. Now I'm
Oh, no, no.
okay. Perimenopause is active right now. Where was I going with that? The mandala, the pause. Um,
Yeah, you're
oh,
talking about the impulse
yeah,
that people wait and feel the impulse to go in, and it does sort of feed off of each person's story. Like you maybe see somebody's story or there, and then there's 4 different elements, and so people hold the stone, which represents fear, and they hold the elements that call to them, and that kind of brings up the somatic piece. Um, but yes, I don't know where you're going with that either, but all I know is that
just that it worked really well. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, I think when, like I said, in general, there's just such a deep level of safety within the way you hold space, and then within the retreat, and then especially that truth mandala, because it's so vulnerable, um, to be in the middle and to, be witness. But then the beauty again too with that, and the power of that, is to be witnessed in your grief story or your anger or whatever it is that shows up when you step into the middle. It's kind of like something bubbles up, and then you can be fully witnessed in that emotional process, which is it's just not something that happens in life for us very often. Usually people tell us to, do the opposite. Like people are uncomfortable seeing us grieve or cry or scream or whatever it is that needs to come out. And so to be in this safe container where you're witnessed by the circle, and yeah, and then big learning being a witness, to seeing somebody in their process. So it's just like this beautiful um, experience. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, and I mean, I think a part of that safety is definitely like having the structure because oftentimes like, if we're like randomly sobbing or yelling or whatever, it's like people don't know what to do partly because there's no structure, right? There's no like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? But when we come into something like the Truth Mandala, it's like, well, there's clear guidelines. What you're supposed to do is, you know, be with your own experience. You don't need to respond. There's certain things you can say if you feel called, but they're really specific things. And so that having that structure is really important. And then yeah, and then I loved how, yeah, like having the principles and especially how you brought them in between turns, just like really, yeah, that's not something I've done before because it's not part of Joanna Macy's kind of original structure.
Mhm.
And yeah, for those of you who are listening who are not familiar with the Truth Mandala, yeah, Joanna Macy from the work that reconnects, she brought that through. Um, many years ago during the time when the wall between East and West Germany was being torn down, and she was facilitating a large group of over 200 people, and there was just so much tension and grief in the room, and she just felt like something needs to shift, and that ritual came through her at that time. And that's one of the things that I love about it, is that, because I think a big issue with being a white person on this land is that, like, most of us are quite disconnected from our own, or our own ancestral rituals. And I actually got to go to Ireland this fall and get a little bit more reconnected to my own ancestry. And but like having a ritual that like came through someone, it's not appropriated, not that, I mean, I think it's great to be gifted different ceremonies and rituals, and to use them from other cultures, but it's so Western in a way, and in the sense that like you were talking about the witnessing. I think for Western people, the witnessing is extra important
Mhm.
because we carry so much shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so being seen and being held within this structure where it's like, it's okay, it's all welcome. It's so
Mhm.
powerful, right? And then yeah, having you weave in a bit more of that slowing things down and grounding into the body and the eye contact and all of that was just, yeah, it was really beautiful. And I just love, yeah, having like somebody like you come into the training who is already carrying a body of work, and then to like feel it get woven in, and then it's like I get to evolve too and be
Yeah.
like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that actually works better. It's like it's such
Yeah. No, that was really super exciting. Yeah, yeah, like you said, when it just sort of things sort of work out, like oh, it actually enriched what was something that was already amazing, to begin with, but it enriched it to a different level, which was, yeah, unexpected,
yeah,
but a really
totally.
pleasant
No,
surprise.
totally. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, and I mean, that's a part of going into real ritual, is like we don't really know exactly what is going to happen a lot of the time. We have the structure that we can lean into, but then I think if we're really going to let the energy move and be working with the ancestors and each person that's coming in bringing their own gifts, it's like the allowing some spontaneity and some impulse and some newness, is really where the medicine of ritual
Yeah,
is.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the beauty of witnessing, yeah, like other people that bringing their gifts and what other people presented were rituals that they created or their spin on one of the other rituals. So, and that was really beautiful to see too, because again, they were bringing in, like you said, their own medicine to just enrich.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful to have that opportunity to just, yeah, have things evolve and have people really find and bring their own medicine, right? Like, what is my unique medicine that I'm going to bring into this space? And
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was
yeah,
really special.
it's
Mm.
so special. Yeah, I hope that when we have a retreat again, you can come and assist and like bring in some of those principles and elements again, because I think, yeah, it would be,
Yeah. I'd love to.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it makes you, I know. And like, and even it was interesting because even in the beginning of the training, I think there were a few of us. I don't think I was alone. Like many of us, when we would talk, would be like, "Yeah, I'm just doing this for myself, for my own learning. I don't know if I'm really gonna use it or do ritual or do grief retreats." And I don't know, but I felt like that last retreat, I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, I could do this now," or I could, um,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people are already doing it, already
Totally.
doing
Yeah,
retreats.
exactly.
And yeah.
No,
So,
it's amazing. It's so fun. It's fun for me too, because I think like, I mean, that's what I'm really trying to create. And I think I am doing it in an effective way with both the level one and the level two advanced training, is like, I don't want to just be one of those trainings that people go through and they're like, oh, now I did my 200-hour yoga training. We're never going to teach yoga or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, I want to like what I'm interested in is like activating people's medicine, like their
yeah.
medicine, and then making it really pragmatic by like having structures that they can take and make their own with that. And
Yeah, because we need it. Yeah, we need. we need people to step up, and we need teachers, and we
Yeah.
need to share it. Yeah, this is so, it's just so valuable. And like I said, so many other groups that I've been in that are missing, they're missing so much of this crucial, the depth. And I was talking to one of my pre and perinatal um, people that learned with, and what I love what she said was this work is it's healing, so it's not just that you're presenting something, yeah, yes, you're allowing grief to happen, but you're allowing like this healing process to happen. And that's the pre and perinatal work too, is like it's just such a different way to work with a new parent that's having lots of challenges. You're really allowing a healing to happen as opposed to just being a sounding board or what have you. It's a really beautiful way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
what it's
love
been for
that.
me, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, exactly. No, I think of that a lot with the grief work where it's like, because it is true, even though we welcome like all different types of grief in the Darkwood space, it's like, it is still true that like, I would say the majority of people who come into grief work, it's probably because of a major loss a lot of the time, just because it's like people often don't think like grief work until they're like, I'm experiencing what is obviously grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I often think of it as like, I mean, as a facilitator, I'm like, it is an opportunity to help people, like, not only through that journey of being with the loss that they've encountered, but also, like, there's so much depth that we can access once that doorway opens.
Yeah.
Like, we're really now in the terrain of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've had like true physical changes that happened, and I know it was because of the big grief work, especially the retreats. Like each time there was sort of a big shift in my physical body, and emotional too, of course, but like to let go or to be able to express, in a big way some of these really deep emotions and be witnessed in that. Like, yeah, there's just there's just nothing else out there that does that. So yeah, it's
It does. Well, it's like the emotional and the physical are not actually separate. I mean, it's like,
totally
yeah, I mean, sometimes we break an arm and we need like a cast on it. Like we need that that actual physical, support for sure. Not to
right,
that, but when it comes to yeah, more like, the fat how we hold our fascia in our body and our tissues and like, the tension or the, whatever that all of that layers, it's like so interwoven with it's not separate from our emotions, our nervous system, all that. So it's like, yeah, of course,
right, yeah, right. Yeah, so it's just a good reminder. Like, yeah, yeah, we need this just to be in our bodies, to be in our bodies in a healthy way. Yeah.
beautiful.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, is there anything else that you would want to say to anybody that is maybe like considering stepping into the Dark Woods container, either, the grief support group or the training, the roots of ritual training? Like if somebody's kind of like thinking about stepping in, but they're like on the fence, what would you say
hmm,
to them? Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Because you're a fence sitter.
I am totally, yeah, and I'm a major procrastinator. Like, yeah, you have to wait till that last minute.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it really, like when I really would feel into my body, I guess that it's funny, we teach what we need, so like I teach people to really trust their inner knowing, and that's something I constantly have to be reteaching myself is and when I get quiet and so I'd really recommend doing like the grief and praise sessions initially just to really get a felt sense of like, what does this feel like to do this somatic work? What does it feel like to be in this container? Um, and the people that are in it. So, and then, yeah, to really sit with it honestly within your own self, like really grounded and present and make the decision from there. Like, yeah, this is something that's going to support me and my journey in my grief journey. And do I possibly want to help other people and support
Mhm.
them in their grief journey? And am I already doing that? I mean, so that was kind of me. It's like I realized I'm already doing it. That's who I'm starting to see. That's who's coming to me. And, it just there were a lot of losses that were kind of, yeah, the last 5 years, I just had a lot of losses and many of them traumatic. And so like, yeah, we
Yeah.
need these tools. We need them. So, and we need teachers to to help others get through it because there's support groups, but they're missing the crucial component, many of them, of the safety and yeah, just the body, really the awareness of the somatics in the body. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, beautiful. No, and it's so true. I love that you said that. Like, are you already doing it, right? Because I think, yeah, so many of us who have had to, because usually it's by force, we've had to work with our own grief, our own trauma, you know, we end up naturally supporting others. People gravitate to us because they can feel that there's something there.
hmm.
We have an understanding, and it's like literally in our energy body radiating outwards. And just in the way that we respond when people start to share things with us, right? It's like they can feel that there's a safety there. And so I think, yeah, a lot of people that have been through their own experience are already doing it. And so then it's just a matter of like, okay, how can you do it with more skills and structure and even just like putting words to and understanding to like what you are
Yeah,
already doing. So that's, yeah, it's
right.
cool.
Right. And then the group itself, like there is so much support
Right.
within the group. And so yeah, that's
Totally. Well, and I loved how you said come in and see how it feels in your body, but also who's there. I love that you said who's there because it is a really special group, isn't it? The grief
it
support.
is.
So
Yeah. It is. It's so yeah, it's so unique and powerful. And that, there's a little breakout rooms so that you can share one-on-one with people. And again, there's so much safety embedded in it that you can be vulnerable without feeling like someone's yeah, people
mhm.
are pretty instructed to just say thank you and
Yeah,
be
totally. Like
really
lots of structure
present.
about how to respond. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so that's really,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lovely, very well thought out, like you've just created a really beautiful program. And so I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out.
And you're one of the facilitators in the grief support group now this year as our intern, part of
I
your intern.
know.
So yeah.
Yay, it's going to be
So if you do
exciting.
come in, you will meet Susan. Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so, so much for, yeah, just being willing to share a little bit about your journey today. And if there was one last thing you wanted to share, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say.
Um, yeah, just no, I mean, I think we've covered most of it. I do feel like um yeah, it's just a good place to be heard. And everybody's grief is unique, and I think it's all welcome, I think that's the number one principle of raise is welcome. And I definitely feel that here in this group that everything is welcome. So yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank
So,
you so much.
you.
You have been listening to Through the Dark Woods podcast, and this has been episode number 3 of our 8-part podcast series, Rooted in Thriving Grief Tending for Collective Liberation. Thank you so much for listening. And again, if you are loving what you're hearing, you can throw up a 5-star in whatever app you're using to listen to this podcast on. And better yet, share it with the ones dear to you who may also be feeling the call towards grief work. Because, yeah, we aren't meant to be doing this work alone. We need support, we need community, we need skills. And on that note, applications are open now for our 2026 Roots of Ritual Grief Tending Foundations training, which begins on March 24th. This program is our 4-month level 1 professional training designed to support you to grow your capacity to tend grief and trauma with confidence in both one-on-one and group settings. If you would love to step into really trusting yourself to hold the full spectrum of human emotion, rage, despair, terror, ecstasy, without needing to fix, soothe, or manage it, if you'd love to understand the difference between grief and trauma and to know precisely how to work with each in the moment, really being able to read the signals in someone's nervous system. If you'd love to learn the architecture of building a sustainable practice for staying grounded and vital while doing this deep work, while holding this deep work, so that you can serve from a place of overflow rather than depletion. And most importantly, if you'd love to be held in a circle of practitioners who understand this work intimately, where you can bring your own grief, your own questions, your own edges, and be met with fierce compassion. And if you're feeling called to bring these essential healing practices to your community, knowing that you're part of a growing network restoring grief skills for this and for future generations, this training could definitely be for you. We have weekly live discussion calls, pre-recorded learning material, and small groups for somatic practice and discussion. And we are getting close to about halfway full. It's early on still, but if you are keen, I would really encourage you to, check it out and apply now. And we have solidarity pricing available for Black, Indigenous people of color. So definitely check that out if that's you. We love to encourage diversity in this space. So I look forward to meeting those of you who feel called. All right, stay tuned for our next episode coming out next week. And for now, that's it. That's all.